thing. So if I had to say one simple thing is really for a business owner is to recreate the experience of if someone was to come into your business and say, what do you guys do? Why did you start the company? What makes you better than your competition? Have that conversation through your website. Through, nobody wants to read about how great your product is.
Right,
You
right,
have
right.
you have a product. And and also like, just write what you want to read. If you have a product for sale, one of our clients has topvelocity.net, I believe it is. And he gives so much value on that site, and everything is all like how to do this, how to do this, how to do this. And it's stuff like he was like, if I would have known how to do those things, gosh, it would have helped me so much. But he does so well because he gives value, and he just has that same conversation as if he was to meet somebody in person.
Mm, that's great advice. Um, Looking back in your, however many years of entrepreneurship you had so far, I mean, I remember reading you quite a while back. I remember thinking this was like when YouTube first started out, and you started tinkering with the video. If you could turn back time, I know it's not a good thing to regret or look back and cry over spilled milk. But if there's one thing that you could change, what would you be? What would it be? Business, personal, and why?
For me personally, I wish I would have got more education on, like an MBA thing or something like that. Really, because if somebody would have told me a lot of things I've had to learn, and that's why I think, well, that's why I know that I've sold myself short. Like I say, I don't think they're failures, but that's been my educational expense, and it's
Mm,
probably been a lot more than what a degree would have cost me. I'm not a big advocate of collegiate education, but
mhm.
there's some things like people with MBAs and stuff that those guys as an entrepreneur, they know what to do, and that's the struggles that I have is, like building a team, managing the team, delegating tasks, project management and stuff like that. So I wish the skill set I have now, I would have started to learn years ago. And I think it's more of a confidence thing in myself. Like back in those days when I sold auction ads, when I sold other stuff, I should have built out a team and taken that thing to the moon. Um, but I just didn't have experience with that, education with that, and so But it's a weird question because like I wouldn't be where I am without those things and learning from those things.
Mhm.
And you know, yeah, so as far as regrets go, I don't have any regrets. I think in the biggest thing I'm most proud of myself is that I just keep trying all the time. I never give up. I'm ferocious and I'm willing to do and I'm willing to do what others are not. And I'm willing to blur lines morally, ethically, legally. I mean, on Next Pimp, this was before the DMCA. There was a lot of copyrighted content, and I got a lot of legal threats. And every lawyer told me, "Shut that thing down. They're gonna take everything you got." And I never, I just complied, and never, had a thing, and ended up selling that website. Um, Unfortunately, when it wasn't at its peak, but I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing that's going to separate every company, or every whatever is willing to do what others are not, and that might mean busting it out, overnight, like staying up, the wee hours. People tell me all the time, "Well, I got a full time job. I want to quit it so I can make money on the internet," and I'm like, really? All you have is time, especially if you're a single guy. Even if you have a family. I mean, I have 2 kids and a wife now. They go to bed. I bust ass on the computer. Some nights I get 3 hours sleep, whatever. But if you're not willing to do that, then it's not going to work. I mean, you've got to be willing to do what your competition isn't. And like I said, it doesn't mean you've got to do sketchy stuff. It just means, you've got to look at what other people are doing. I mean, when I started auction ads, there was 8 other companies who had ad platforms around eBay, but I was willing to do things that those weren't. I mean, some of those things were I paid out net zero terms, which is insane. I mean, like I paid out the first of the month for previous month's earnings immediately,
Right.
and
Right.
I paid out through PayPal. That's scary because eBay wasn't reimbursing me for 90 days. So I had to get a $10 million credit line. I was on the hook for that. Um, but I'm not saying, that's scary. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying you should do that. But what I am saying is, I also did many other things, marketing wise that other people wouldn't have done. But without doing those things, I mean, that truly separated me from the pack, and I haven't really had a chance to market the new company yet. Fortunately, all the business comes to us so far. But as soon as I build up enough team to take a lot off of my plate, I mean, you're going to see unleashed, on what I've done with every other company and really bust this thing out.
Wow. Great advice.
And that's one of my mantras is I don't like to talk about anything. If people ask me a question and I haven't done exactly what they're asking me, I'll just say, I don't have any experience in that. And any, did I lose him? Hey, yo.
Hey, not
Hey.
quite sure what happened there. I think we all
Yeah,
got shut down.
whichever.
Yeah.
So, one of my mantras is not, I don't ever tell anyone what to do. As you can see in throughout this thing. And sometimes people want to know what to do. And I always say, like, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but what I am going to do is tell you what I did and what I found out. And,
Mm.
and people take from that what they want. And so I mean, my blog is that. Some people are like, oh, this isn't helping me make money online. Well, guess what? The blog's about me. It's a blog. You know, it's not, it's not really to help you. That wasn't ever my intent, but I do share a lot of my stuff and people find a lot of value in that. And obviously it works because I've done pretty well with the blog. And
Okay.
the cool thing is when you build a blog and you build up that audience in that particular area that you become an expert in, it's a great launching platform for anything you ever want to do because you've given people value over years. And I mean, there's
Mm.
people that have been reading my blog for 10 years. And
Me.
yeah, well, I mean, it's like you have a good following, and anything you do, you could sell a product. It doesn't even matter what it is. People will buy it because they feel like they owe you, right? Because you're not, some guy trying to sell them something sketchy. You're some guy who's been giving them advice and helping them, and so when you sell something, it does really well because people feel obligated, almost to reimburse you for all the great advice you've given them and help them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Two last questions.
Yes,
Who do
sir.
you follow on regular basis? Whose blog, whose content do you follow on regular basis?
So one of the things I always like to say is I listen to everyone, but I
Hmm.
don't particularly follow anyone. And but with that said, so who do I listen to is, like Seth Godin. He
Hmm.
comes up with some magical stuff, which, like really, I mean, some of his stuff, like the Purple Cow, is a lot like what I'm talking about. Is like he doesn't say it, but All Marketers Are Liars. Great book, even though he wussed out and rechanged the title of that. But that's a excellent book, and I listen to him on audio at double speed because I don't read. But which is ironic, right? Because I write blogs and I haven't even really read my own book from cover to cover. So
Yeah.
it's, I got booked out, but whatever. So yeah, the point is that, like with Seth, I get all these ideas, but I apply them to what I'm doing. I don't really follow what he says. Like, what I do though is I spark and I get ideas. But if there is one person that I would say I follow and just admire to death, it would be a guy named Dana White, who's the president of the UFC. That
Hmm.
guy, got investors to buy the UFC when it was kind of in debt, and they bought it for $2 million, and they've owned it for 20 years, and now that company's worth $3 billion. But back when it was emerging, and I started a site called Fighters.com. Oh, you asked me about regrets. that was a big mistake. And the reason it was a mistake was because I talked about the Coke theory and all this other stuff about how I knew about this thing so I could do this.
Mm.
Well, guess what? I don't know anyone in the mixed martial arts space. So I'd call up these advertising companies and they're like, who the hell are you? Like whatever. But if I call up an advertising company in our space, they're like, yeah, we'll work something out. We'll do this. We want exposure to your audience. But that was a regret, was to jump ship into what I built a really good following and reputation in. That was a mistake that I won't repeat. But it was an education, right? And I don't refer to it as like a failure or whatever. It was a regret, but if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have learned, and maybe it would have cost me a lot more. But I've had other really badass stuff that we've built that at the end I was just like, you know what, this isn't going to work because of this. Okay, so the other start or the other let's see, what was the question again?
Who do you follow?
Yeah. So like Dana White, I said a lot of times like, okay, this guy, man, it's impressive what he's done, but they got to bring in somebody like a Vince McMahon or somebody who's built an athletic sport. Like Vince McMahon basically built wrestling, pro wrestling,
Right.
and he basically built a sport. And I was like, Dana White has taken it this far, but he's got to bring somebody in. Well, that dude just, I'm just so impressed. And for those out there, if you want to see something really amazing about a entrepreneur's mindset on how they took a company that was nothing and built it into a multi-billion-dollar company, and his whole mindset about why it worked and all that stuff, just Google Dana White Stanford, because he gave a talk at Stanford, and it's amazing. It's a great talk, and I've watched it a couple times.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So Seth Go and Dana White, awesome.
Yep.
One last thing, is there anything else would you like to say? Shameless self promotion time. What's on your mind?
I'm actually as good as a marketer. I'm and as good as everyone thinks I'm a shameless self promoter. The thing is really, the reason I've done so well is because I've built value with people. I've given away stuff, and I have a new company called the PAR Program. If you want to check it out, and you own a business.
What is it called again?
PARprogram.com.
Oh, PAR Program.
Yeah, PAR.
Okay, yeah, I know PAR Program.
Yeah, it stands for People Acquisition and Retention. It's truly a revolutionary service that for companies we can triangulate just from an email. We can gather 190 different data points on a person. We work with credit bureaus and other stuff to get an amazing amount of data on just an email, even their social interests, what people say they're experts in on LinkedIn, their positions in companies, blah, blah, blah. Now, it's also like a semi-autoresponder, but we call them, sequences, acquisition to get, because every company has two problems: acquiring new customers and then upselling them on the backside. If they're an e-commerce company, if they're a service company, on the backside, it's getting people to consume the product. Okay, so you signed up, great. Now we're going to show you how to use it and actually, implement it. And because a lot of companies make more money, just like our PAR program, the more they use it.
Right.
So, yeah, that's what I'm doing now. The PAR program, it's not for everyone. It's for companies. You got to probably be getting about 10 to 20,000 unique visitors a month in order for it to be effective. But it is very, very effective. But it's it's $2,500 setup fee, minimum $1,000 a month, year commitment. So obviously a lot of people watching this. But the same stuff that we use, if you get my affiliate cash tree guide, or I basically just rebranded it and sold it on Amazon as the ultimate email marketing conversion guide, and I stuffed it full of keywords because I just leverages Amazon's SEO stuff. So yeah, but that's basically it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. Hey, that was a great interview, man. Packed with some great information, awesome stories, and I just want to say thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Taewoo. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
All right, talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.